You were not too much. The avoidance fear of closeness did not begin with you. I want you to hear that clearly, right now, before anything else, because it isn't comfort. It's the verdict. Your need for reassurance did not destroy this. You stepped into a story that was already in progress, and you got close enough to touch a wound that existed long before they ever met you. I know where you are right now. You're sitting with your phone, staring at the message they never answered, rereading the last conversation for the sentence that ruined everything. You remember how warm they were at the start, how present they seemed, how safe it felt to be wanted by them. Then the messages slowed, the eye contact faded, and the warmth became harder and harder to reach. Now you scroll back to those first easy weeks and hold them against the silence you're living in, searching for the one text, the one need, the one emotional moment that flipped the switch. It feels like being locked out of a room you were once invited into. It feels like watching someone become a stranger in real time. The relationship became a crime scene, and you became the detective. But notice what the searching is really doing. You're hunting for the moment you broke it, because self-blame creates the illusion of control. If you caused it, then maybe you can fix it. If you said the wrong thing, then maybe you can say the right thing. If you were too emotional, then maybe you can become calmer. If you asked for too much, then maybe you can learn to need nothing at all. That's the trap. You're not gathering evidence. You're hunting for a confession, your own. You're not searching because the answer is hidden in one message. You're searching because your nervous system wants control over someone else's withdrawal. Because the version where it's your fault is the only version where you hold the power to undo it. And the search never ends, because the thing you're looking for was never inside the relationship in the first place. So here's the heart of this video, and I'm giving it to you early, because a detective doesn't save the conclusion for the last page. There is a difference between activating a wound and causing a wound. If someone has an old injury and you press on it, they flinch, they pull back, they protect the spot, but your touch did not create the injury. The injury was already there. In exactly the same way, your need for reassurance activated their fear of closeness. Your desire for honesty activated their fear of being accountable to another person. Your wish for consistency activated their fear of being depended on. You touched the wound. You did not make the wound, and you did not scare away a secure person by having normal human needs, because a secure person doesn't experience normal human needs as a threat. Everything that follows is the case that proves it, where the wound was made, how it was made, and why your love was the thing that pressed on it. Before we go any further, if this is speaking to the exact place you are in right now, take 1 second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It tells me which of these cases matter most to you, and it makes sure you're here for the ones that follow. And if you leave a comment, tell me this: when you look back now, what was the first sign of their distance you mistook for something you'd done? Let me know. Now, let's open the case file. They did not arrive in your life as a blank slate. They brought a blueprint into the relationship, a set of emotional rules learned early in life about whether closeness is safe, whether needs are welcome, and whether other people can be relied on. Before you, there were lessons. Before you, there were adaptations. Before you, there were rules they absorbed without ever knowing they were learning them. Rules like, don't need too much, don't cry openly, don't rely on anyone, don't expect comfort, and don't let people see how much you care. Never give anyone enough access to hurt you, never be a burden, never lose control. Their withdrawal happened inside your relationship, but the roots of it are older than the relationship itself. So where does a blueprint like that come from? This is where the case file actually starts, years before your first message, in thousands of small, ordinary moments. Children learn love through repetition, not through one dramatic event, but through what happens over and over when they reach for someone. When they cry, does someone come close? When they're scared, does someone soothe them? When they're overwhelmed, does someone help them put words to what they feel? When they ask for closeness, are they welcomed or are they made to feel inconvenient? If the answer is repeatedly cold, confusing, inconsistent, or absent, the child adapts. And this part is important because it clears up a lot of confusion. Avoidant origins are not always obvious trauma. Sometimes the parents fed them, clothed them, disciplined them, and kept a stable home, but had no emotional language at all. Sometimes a parent went stiff and uncomfortable whenever the child cried. Sometimes distress was mocked, minimized, ignored, or treated as weakness. Sometimes the child learned that being upset made the adults in the room move further away. The child doesn't think, I'm developing avoidant attachment. The child thinks, I should handle this myself. I should stop asking. I shouldn't make a fuss. I'm safer when I keep things inside. So they stop reaching. They stop expecting comfort. They learn to dismiss their own needs before anyone else gets the chance to. Avoidance begins as protection long before it becomes a pattern. And here's the piece of evidence most people miss. Some avoidant people weren't only punished for needing, they were rewarded for not needing, praised for being so mature, praised for being easy, for being strong, for taking care of themselves, for never causing any trouble. A child can learn to disappear emotionally because disappearing gets approval. They become the one who doesn't ask, the one who doesn't cry, the one who handles it, the one who needs nobody. And over the years, that stops feeling like a strategy and starts feeling like a personality. What looks like impressive independence in adulthood may have started as a child, working out that needing less was the safest way to stay loved. Now take that child, grown up, and put them at the start of a relationship with you. Here's the confusing part. At the beginning, they often genuinely want closeness. They pursue, they flirt, they open up, they create intensity, they seem warm, present, and emotionally available. And I want to be clear about this, because you've been torturing yourself over it. The beginning can be real, the warmth can be real, the attraction can be real, the tenderness can be real. The problem was never that closeness arrived. The problem is what closeness started to require. Because as a relationship deepens, it starts asking for the exact things their blueprint treats as dangerous. The relationship starts to matter. You start to depend on them. Their own feelings get harder to control. The possibility of disappointing you becomes real. Your need for emotional presence starts to feel like pressure. Your request for repair after an argument starts to feel like engulfment. Your hurt starts to feel like accusation, even when it isn't one. And then the old blueprint takes over. They pull away, go quiet, get busy. They start cataloging your flaws and dodging the difficult conversations. They call it needing space, and they feel relief when the distance returns. They're not pulling away because the closeness meant nothing. They're pulling away because the closeness started to mean too much. There's a name for what happens in that moment, and it's simpler than it sounds. It's called deactivation. Deactivation means the avoidant pushes down their attachment feelings so they can feel independent, calm, and in control again. In real life, in the evidence you were staring at, it looks like this. They stop replying with warmth. Needs they once welcomed suddenly irritate them. They tell themselves the relationship was never that serious anyway. Zoom in on small flaws to justify the distance and convince themselves they're better off alone. They bury themselves in work, screens, the gym, errands, new attention, anything that turns the volume down on the bond. They get colder because coldness feels like safety. They act unaffected because feeling affected would mean losing control. And hold on to this because it will save you months of rumination. Deactivation is a coping mechanism, not an excuse. It protects them from their own vulnerability while leaving you alone with the impact. Their shutdown shields them from their fear. It does nothing to shield you from the silence. This is also why the two of you kept landing in the same brutal loop. For you, closeness regulates fear. When the connection feels shaky, You want to talk, clarify, repair, and reconnect, because closeness is what settles you. For them, distance regulates fear. When the connection feels intense, they want to reduce the pressure, create distance, shut down, and get back in control, because distance is what settles them. So the more they pull away, the more anxious you feel. The more anxious you feel, the more you reach. The more you reach, the more pressured they feel. The more pressured they feel, the more they pull away, round and round, with both of you trying to feel safe in ways that make the other person feel less safe. You're not crazy for panicking when connection disappears. You're not weak for needing reassurance after days of distance. You're not broken because silence hurts your body. It's supposed to hurt. You were attached. But I owe you honesty about the loop. Chasing someone who is deactivating rarely creates safety. It usually confirms their belief that closeness equals pressure. Not because your need for closeness is wrong, it isn't, but because you're trying to get safety from someone whose system is treating safety itself as the threat. You cannot calm the anxious-avoidant loop by being the only person doing the emotional work. Which brings us to the question that keeps you up at night. Was any of it real? Their withdrawal does not automatically mean the beginning was fake. It does not mean you imagined the tenderness. It does not mean every intimate moment was a performance. The truth is more complicated than fake or real, and that's exactly why it hurts the way it does. They can care and still withdraw. They can miss you and still avoid you. They can feel attached and still deactivate. They can want love and still run from what love requires. You're not grieving pure rejection. You're grieving contradiction. You saw the warmth. You felt the bond. You remember the version of them that reached for you, and now you're trying to reconcile that person with the person who went cold. The warmth was real enough to hurt. The fear was real enough to interrupt it. Neither one makes your pain imaginary. Now, let's talk about what you've been doing since they pulled away. Because if you're watching this, chances are you've reopened the investigation. You're studying attachment theory. You're analyzing their childhood. You're replaying every story they ever told you about their parents, building a case file on someone who isn't even in the room anymore. You're watching videos like this one at 2 in the morning, hunting for the origin of the wound. And underneath all of that research is a hidden hope. If I understand them well enough, I can fix this. If I find the wound, I can avoid triggering it. If I become safe enough, gentle enough, patient enough, they'll come back. If I can explain their own pattern to them, they'll finally see it. I'm going to name what's really happening, and I say it with compassion because the instinct makes complete sense. Understanding has become a way of staying attached. You're not just learning, you're trying to regain control. You're trying to turn insight into access. You're trying to make their avoidance solvable so the loss doesn't have to feel final. And here is the hard truth that sits underneath this whole video. The origin story can explain why they pulled away. It cannot give you the power to heal them. And when understanding doesn't bring them back, you usually try the next thing. You shrink. You text less, ask less, react less, bring things up less. You become careful and edited. You draft a message 3 times before sending it. You monitor your tone. You ration your feelings. You make yourself easier to leave and harder to accuse. You stop being loved as yourself and start auditioning as the least threatening version of yourself. So let me say this with total certainty. You cannot become invisible enough to make someone else feel safe. You cannot shrink your needs until another person becomes emotionally available. You cannot heal avoidance by abandoning yourself. You cannot earn security by becoming easier to neglect. And of course you tried. I'm not judging you for it, and you shouldn't judge yourself either. You were trying to protect the bond. You were trying to stop the loss. You were trying to make love feel safe again, but look at what it cost. It cost you. A relationship that only works when you disappear is not emotional safety, it's self-erasure. Now, some of you feel something else rising as you watch this. and it's guilt, because the more you understand their childhood, the more you feel sorry for them, and the more you feel sorry for them, the less entitled you feel to your own hurt. So, let's be precise. Yes, their avoidance comes from pain. Yes, their withdrawal is a survival strategy. Yes, there is a frightened part of them underneath the coldness. And at the same time, you still had to live with the silence. You still had to absorb the distance. You still had to question your worth. You still had to lie awake next to absence, or stare at your phone, your whole body waiting for reassurance that never came. An explanation is not an absolution. Understanding why someone hurt you does not mean the hurt didn't happen. Understanding the origin of their pattern does not make you responsible for enduring it. Compassion for their wound should never require betrayal of your own. Because here's what actually changes avoidant attachment, and I want you to notice that none of it is on your list. They have to notice the pattern. They have to stop treating discomfort as proof that love is wrong. They have to learn to stay present when emotions run high instead of disappearing, to communicate instead of vanish, to repair instead of rationalize. They have to face their fear of depending on another person, and they have to stop making their partner pay for wounds their partner did not create. Every single one of those steps requires their participation. You can love them, you can understand them, you can speak gently, offer safety, and be patient, but you cannot make them choose self-awareness. You cannot make them choose repair. You cannot drag another adult into emotional maturity through your own suffering. Their past explains the door they keep closing. Only they can decide to open it. And while we're being precise, let's get one thing straight about you. When you love someone avoidant, ordinary needs can start to feel like unreasonable demands because their system reacts to closeness as pressure. You watch them flinch at things a secure partner would usually welcome, and you concluded the problem was the size of your needs. It wasn't. A need is not excessive just because someone else is unable or unwilling to meet it. You were asking for connection from someone who learned to survive by needing less of it. So I want to leave you with a different question. Not, why are they like this? You have that answer now. A deeper one. While you were studying them, what was happening to you? Were you trying to solve their childhood so you wouldn't have to grieve the present? Were you calling it patience when it was actually self-abandonment? Were you making their fear more important than your safety? Were you shrinking yourself to avoid triggering someone who wasn't taking responsibility for their own pattern? Were you trying to be the person who finally loved them enough to change them? Understanding their origin matters. It can dissolve years of self-blame in a single evening, but it is not the whole story. The real question was never only, what happened to them before they met me? The real question is, what happened to me while I was trying to survive their avoidance? So here is where all of this leaves you. Understanding the avoidant does not mean excusing the avoidant. Understanding their childhood does not mean ignoring your heartbreak. Understanding their fear of closeness does not mean sacrificing your need for consistency. Understanding their deactivation does not mean waiting forever. You are allowed to understand them and still choose yourself. You are allowed to feel compassion without volunteering to be hurt. You are allowed to stop chasing the origin of someone else's wound and return to your own life. And now, the turn this whole investigation has been building towards. The moment you can see the pattern, something shifts that nobody can take back from you. You stop being the suspect in your own story. You walked into this video as the accused, interrogating yourself, drafting confessions, auditioning for a softer sentence. You can walk out of it as the person you actually were the entire time, the one who kept showing up with an open heart. So here's who you get to become now that you see it. The person who reads distance as information instead of instruction. The person who answers silence with clarity instead of investigation. The person whose needs go back to being what they always were, ordinary, human, and allowed, instead of charges to be defended. Whether they ever do their work or not, your next chapter doesn't get written in their handwriting. The same depth that kept you searching their past is the exact depth that will build something secure in your future, with someone who does the work, whoever that turns out to be. Seeing the pattern doesn't just explain your last relationship, it changes who walks into your next one. So let me read you the verdict, because every case deserves one. No, you did not cause their avoidance. No, your need for reassurance did not make you unlovable. No, their withdrawal does not prove the connection was fake. No, understanding their childhood does not make their behavior harmless. No, compassion does not mean staying where you are not met. And yes, their avoidance began long before you. Yes, closeness activated something old in them. Yes, their fear can be real, and your pain can be real at the same time. Yes, their origin explains part of the pattern, and yes, their healing is still their responsibility, not yours. The case file on their past can explain why they pulled away, but your healing is not found by endlessly studying their blueprint. Your healing begins the moment you stop making yourself the cause of someone else's fear, and stop making yourself the cure for it. That case is closed. Yours is just beginning. And if the question sitting in your chest right now is what happens on their side of the silence, whether they actually miss you once you stop reaching, I've already worked that case. It's the video on your screen right now on whether avoidants miss you after no contact. Start there. I have been the relationship detective, and thank you for watching. If this helped you see things more clearly, please give it a like, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. I wish everyone watching all the best, and I hope to see you again in the next one.